Hi Rebecca.
Hi Alison.
I understand you assess students using the Australian Core Skills Framework. Can you tell me why do you use this ACSF and what students do you assess?
Well, we use the ACSF because OTEN has a contract for online and distance delivery, national contract for students all over Australia who are doing the language, literacy and numeracy program.
That's the LLNP program.
That's right, yeah. So, and the students we assess, well, at OTEN we assess the students from non-English speaking backgrounds who are in the SL section, but also in adult basic education. The students there are born in Australia, nearly all of them, and many of them are Indigenous. Some of them live in remote communities scattered around Queensland, Northern Territory, Western Australia, but others are just Australians who missed out on the opportunity to get a comprehensive basic skills education, and they live all around Australia. Also in OTEN, in the Multicultural Education Unit, the LLNP program is run. Students there are doing vocational courses and they give them assistance with the English language side of it as part of the LLNP program.
Right, and how do they get into the LLNP program? Can you tell me about the procedures?
Well, they're referred by Centrelink. So each student has been referred and Centrelink has deemed that distance education is appropriate for that client. The client's at that stage, and then they become our students. We assess them and they're put into one of those three sections, SL, ABE or MEU.
So do they do some kind of written assessment for you to be able to assess their reading and writing skills?
Yes. What happens is, once they have been referred by Centrelink, a pre-training assessment, that's a reading and writing, a written one, and numeracy assessment, is posted to the student. And so that's, they're assessed in their reading and writing, their numeracy, but they also answer questions about themselves, about their learning, their future plans, their past education, that kind of thing. So we're also beginning to look at learning strategies as well.
Right.
And then once...
Do you assess their speaking and listening skills?
Yes, we do.
Right.
But that's later. What we do is, once we get this back, it's taken to the right section. So if it's a non-English speaking background student, of depending on their goals, it can be a beginner right up to an advanced student. They will come to the English as a second language SL section. But they may be a vocational student, their emphasis, if that's for an advanced student, then they would go to the MEU, Multicultural Education Unit. Otherwise, if they're born in Australia, they'll go to the Adult Basic Education, ABE, and that does include a lot of Aboriginal students, but of course many who are just mainstream Australians who
want to upgrade their skills?
Yeah, they missed out on the opportunity to get strong core foundation skills. So, yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about the kinds of questions you ask in the interview to assess their speaking skills?
Okay, well in the interview we're not just assessing their speaking skills and their listening, we're getting an overview of the students' learning styles, so learning strategies, which would include their learning styles, the strategies they've developed, and that's a very important part of the speaking, of the oral interview.
And you need to maybe be able to assess whether they're going to be suitable for distance study and be able to motivate themselves.
So true, yes. They need to be able to motivate themselves. They need to be, to a certain degree, an independent learner. Of course, we'll give them support, but some people are just not really suitable for the program because they need that face-to-face, regular contact. But also we're looking in that interview at numeracy because, for example, a student might have good written numeracy, but they don't have the language of numeracy.
Right.
And they need the language of numeracy. That's just as important as being able to
do all the calculations on the paper.
Yes. So maybe someone in their country was an engineer, and they can do calculations well, but they can't express that in the English language.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
how long does it take to assess a student?
it takes, well, it depends. Some students really, if their English language level is very low, it may not take that long, although those interviews are difficult because it can be really hard to elicit very much at all.
Yes.
Some students, students at a higher level, it takes a long time because you need to be able to assess accurately how much they comprehend, in an of an extended, complex text. Not just so they're listening, their numeracy. We need to really check how much they can express in English.
So as an assessor, it's actually you're trying to interview. You're also trying to think about the ACSF performance criteria and whether they are, what level they are.
Yes.
So it's fine-tuning.
It is, and during
difficult.
the interview you have to be very flexible. So what we do, we have a lot of questions ready, and then we ask the questions, and we actually record word for word what they say.
So then you can analyse the language.
And afterwards we
analyse
analyse the language, we can analyse how much they understood, we can analyse. So the speaking, it's not really one or two questions, it's analysing their speaking or their listening. The whole interview is doing that. And so after the interview we look at that very carefully.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the most difficult thing, do you think, in assessing a student for an assessor?
Well, as I just said, the really low-level students, the ones who you just can't get them to elicit very much at all, that can be really challenging. Sometimes students who present as very high with the reading and writing and the numeracy, we have to be actually sure that they did all the work themselves.
Right.
That's why we ask them just basic calculations in maths, we ask them to read something aloud. We want to be sure that they've actually done all of this work themselves, and also we need to know, even if say they have, and of course most of them would have, but we need to be sure that they can express that language in English verbally, orally.
Right.
So, and some of the students have a very spiky profile.
Yes, that means they're stronger in some areas than others.
They might be really strong in the numeracy, but they've got very weak reading and writing or speaking or something.
Right.
So,
and then that makes it difficult to place them.
It makes it very difficult to place them. So that's something that always, as you assess, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, as well as assessment on the ASCF, the Australian Core Skills Framework, you're also thinking about placement. Yes. What course to enrol them in and start them off in.
Right. And there's also the ISLPR, which is used to assess students. Do you use that in your assessments?
Not with the LLMP, the Language Literacy and Numeracy Program students. We just use the ACSF.
Okay.
But we do use the ISLPR. That's used with the core students. When they send in their assessments, we're looking at the ISLPR, and that's used to place them in the appropriate course. But the LLMP is just relies on the ACSF.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alison.